A soft drink machine is regulated so that it dispenses an average of 200 milliliters per cup. The amount of drink dispensed is normally distributed with a standard deviation equal to 15 milliliters. This means that we have a mu equal to 200 milliliters and a standard deviation equal to 15 milliliters. We know what the shape of the distribution looks like because it says it's normally distributed. So let's draw the distribution. We'll start with our bell-shaped curve. In the center, we'll add in our mean of 200, and then we'll add in our standard deviations. One standard deviation up from the mean will be 215, two standard deviations will be 230, three standard deviations will be 245, one standard deviation down will be 185, two standard deviations down 170, and three standard deviations down will be 155. We can now easily use the 68, 95, 99.7 rule to find proportions. So in our first problem, what proportion of cups will be filled between 185 and 215? Let's go ahead and shade in this region. 185 to 215 is two standard deviations away from our mean. One standard deviation away from our mean. So what does that mean? That means that this is 68% of the data. Or if we're talking about a proportion, it'll be 0.68. This will be the answer to what proportion of cups will be filled between 185 and 215 milliliters. So for our next problem, we want to find the proportion of cups that are filled over 245 milliliters. If we want to shade in this region, we'll find that the area above 245 is this area here. We can easily find this because we know that 245 is 3 standard deviations up from the mean. 3 standard deviations away from the mean is about 99.7% of the data. However, this isn't the area that we want. We want the area that's up here in the tail. Well, we can simply find this by subtracting 99.7 from 100%, the entire area under the curve. So 100% minus 99.7% will give us the leftover or the area out in the tails. This is equal to 0.3%. So that's then down here 0.15% and up here 0.15%. We need to split this in half to get then just the area of one tail. So what proportion of cups will be filled over 245 milliliters? That's equal to 0.0015. All right, so for our last problem, we want to find then the area. Let's go ahead and get rid of some of this. Between 170 and 245 milliliters. So if we shade in that region, we have 170 up to 245. This is the region that we want to find. Well, one thing that we know is we know that between 170 and 245 is not an even number of distributions away from the mean, but we do know that 170 to 230, this area is equal to 95%. So if we can account for this as 95%, then all we need to find is this leftover area here between 230 and 245. We can find this pretty easily. Given we know that the 3 standard deviations away from our mean is 99.7, we can subtract off the 95% that we don't want, divide it by 2, and find the area that's between 230 and 245. Because between 3 standard deviations will give us 155 to 245, but we don't want this area. So if we subtract that off, then we don't need it. 99.7 minus 95% is simply then just 2.35%. This is going to be then the area that's between 230 and 245. We simply add this to the 95%, the original in between 170 to 230, and we'll get an area of 97.35%, or a proportion of 0.9735.